What if I told you the battle for your entire life is decided in the first 60 minutes after you wake up? Before the noise, before the excuses, before the world starts pulling on you, that hour right there is where habits are born or broken. And listen to me closely. People don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they let the morning beat them. This is not just motivation. This is a success habit that separates the average from the unstoppable. Why do you think so many people wake up tired, stressed, already defeated? Because the moment their eyes open, they hand their power away. Phone in the hand, mind in chaos, zero intention. And then they wonder why life feels heavy. Let me say this with my chest. How you start your morning is how you live your life. This is a motivational truth. They don't teach in school, but it shows up in every inspirational video you've ever felt in your bones. Have you ever noticed that winners don't rush the morning, they own it? They don't roll out of bed confused, they rise with purpose. Winning the first hour means you decide who you are before the world tells you who to be. That's discipline. That's control. That's a daily habit that rewires your identity. This ain't luck. This is success habits stacked daily until confidence becomes natural. Ask yourself this: who's in control when you wake up? You or your notifications? Because if your first move is reaction, you've already lost. The first hour is sacred ground. No drama, no comparison, no excuses. Just you and the decision to show up. That's why every powerful motivational speech starts with self-control. You don't need hype. You need habits that hit hard every single morning. What would change if the first thing you did was something intentional? A deep breath, cold water on your face, a moment of silence, a clear decision today. I don't drift, I direct. That one shift builds momentum, and momentum, that's dangerous in the best way. That's how motivation turns into execution, and execution turns into results. Be real with yourself. Nobody accidentally becomes great. Greatness is scheduled early. When you win the first hour, you tell your mind, I'm in charge today. And your mind listens. That's psychology. That's power. That's why this keynote matters, because it sets the tone, the fire, the urgency. This is the foundation of every motivational video that actually changes lives. So don't hit snooze on your potential. Don't wait to feel ready. Get up and claim that hour like it owes you money. Because once you win the first hour, you're ready for what comes next. What's the very first thing you reach for when your eyes crack open? Be honest. Is it your purpose or that glowing screen? Because the moment you grab that phone, you're not starting your day, you're surrendering it. This is where habits quietly decide your future. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just one small choice that shapes your daily habits, your focus, your energy, your confidence. This isn't just motivation. This is a warning wrapped in a motivational speech. Have you ever asked yourself why your mind feels crowded before the day even begins? Notifications, messages, news, someone else's wins, someone else's problems. You haven't even stood up yet, and your brain is already running a marathon. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. And if you don't break that pattern, no amount of motivational video hype will save you. Because focus is the currency of success, and you're spending it broke before breakfast. Why do you think discipline feels so rare these days? Because distraction is everywhere, and it starts the second you wake up. When your phone is the first thing you touch, you train your brain to chase dopamine instead of direction. And let me tell you something real. Success habits don't start with comfort. They start with control. Every inspirational video you've ever felt in your chest, this is the discipline behind it. What would happen if you delayed the phone just 30 minutes? No scrolling, no reacting, just silence, intention, and ownership. That quiet right there. That's power. That's where your real motivation lives. That's where your thoughts become clear and your confidence gets built. Because when you don't let the world rush into your mind, you get to choose who you are before the noise hits. Be real. Who benefits when you start your morning distracted? Not you. Not your goals. Not your dreams. You can't build a focused life with scattered mornings. That's psychology. That's science. That's why elite performers protect their mornings like it's sacred ground. They know daily habits compound, and the smallest distraction steals momentum. This is how winners stay locked in while everybody else stays busy. Ask yourself this: do you want comfort or do you want results? Because reaching for that phone feels easy, but avoiding it builds character. And character. That's the backbone of every success habit on the planet. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. One choice. One moment. One morning at a time. What if today you tried something different? You wake up. You breathe. You sit with yourself. No phone. No noise. Just clarity. That simple pause flips a switch in your brain. And once that switch is flipped, everything else starts lining up: your energy, your discipline, your hunger. This is how motivation turns into action without forcing it. So before we move forward, understand this: if you can't control the first few minutes of your day, the rest of the day will control you. And what comes next is where discipline starts getting tested even harder. What if I told you your body is the first battlefield of the day, and most people lose it before breakfast? They wake up stiff, slow, heavy, already tired of a day that hasn't even started. But listen to me closely. When you move your body early, you wake up more than muscles. You wake up discipline, confidence, and hunger. This ain't just motivation. This is a success habit that separates talkers from doers in every motivational video you've ever felt deep inside. Why do you think your mind feels sharper after movement? Because the body leads and the mind follows. When you move first thing in the morning, you send a message to your brain: I'm alive. I'm in control. Let's go. That's not hype. That's biology. That's psychology. That's why every real motivational speech talks about action before emotion. You don't wait to feel motivated. You move. And motivation shows up late trying to catch up. Have you noticed how powerful people carry themselves differently? Chest up. Energy high. Presence strong. That confidence doesn't come from wishing. It comes from daily habits that build momentum early. A walk, push-ups, stretching, sweat, something. When your body moves, excuses get quiet. Fear backs off. Doubt loses its voice. That's why movement is one of the most underrated success habits on the planet. Ask yourself this: how can you demand focus from your mind when your body is still asleep? You can't. When you move before the world moves you, you flip the script. Instead of reacting to stress, you create strength. Instead of feeling behind, you feel ahead. That's the secret sauce behind every inspirational video that makes you say, "Yeah, I needed that." What happens when you don't move? You feel sluggish. Your posture drops. Your energy crashes. And then you call it a bad day. Nah, it wasn't a bad day, it was a bad start. Movement is the ignition switch. Without it, you're just sitting in the car wondering why life ain't moving. This is motivation with receipts. This is why habits compound, especially the physical ones. Be honest, how long does it really take? 10 minutes, 15. You got time to scroll, but not to move. That's the trap. Comfort feels good now, but it steals from you later. Movement early builds mental toughness. It builds pride. It builds identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who shows up. And once that identity locks in, everything else starts lining up. What if tomorrow you didn't overthink it? No gym pressure, no perfection, just movement, just sweat, just proof to yourself that you're not soft. That one decision changes how you talk, how you walk, how you attack the day. That's why this keynote matters, because the next level of discipline is about to demand even more from you. And that's where things start getting real. What if I told you the real fight ain't out there? It's in your head, and it starts the second you wake up. Before money, before opportunities, before luck, your mind is already running a script. And if you don't write that script on purpose, trust me, life will write it for you. That's why habits aren't just actions. They're mental programs. And the strongest daily habits start with how you talk to yourself when nobody's listening. Have you ever noticed how your mood can flip before the day even begins? That's not random. That's untrained thinking. Most people wake up and let old fears, old losses, and old doubts replay on autopilot. Same thoughts, same results. But winners, they interrupt that loop. They speak vision before the world speaks limitation. That's not fake positivity. That's success habits in motion. That's the backbone of every real motivational video that changes behavior, not just feelings. Why do you think visualization has been used by champions for decades? Because the mind doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's repeated. When you see yourself winning, moving with confidence, handling pressure, you're building neural pathways. That's science. That's psychology. That's why every powerful motivational speech hits the mind before it hits the crowd. You don't rise to the level of motivation. You fall to the level of your mental habits. Ask yourself this: if your inner voice was a coach, would it fire you or promote you? Because the words you repeat every morning shape your identity. Say, "I'm tired," and your body agrees. Say, I'm built for this, and your posture changes. That's not hype. That's conditioning. This is how daily habits silently build confidence, focus, and hunger while everyone else is still half asleep. What happens when you don't program your mind? You react, you doubt, you hesitate, and then you call it stress. Nah, that's a lack of mental reps. When you start your day with intention, affirmations, goals, gratitude, you're sharpening your mental blade. You're not hoping for motivation. You're manufacturing it. That's why the most impactful, inspirational video messages always start with mindset before mechanics. Be honest. How many times have you said you wanted change, but kept feeding the same thoughts? Results don't come from wanting. They come from alignment. Thoughts, actions, habits, all pointed in the same direction. When your mind is programmed for success early, discipline feels lighter, focus feels natural, and pressure stops feeling like a threat. What if tomorrow you took 5 minutes to speak life into yourself before the world speaks doubt into you? No music, no noise, just vision, just belief, just direction. That's where confidence gets built. And once your mind is locked in, the next challenge is about to test whether you can turn that mindset into something even harder. What if I told you the reason most people stay stuck isn't talent, luck, or intelligence, it's avoidance? They dodge the hard thing. They delay discomfort. And every time they do, they train themselves to quit quietly. But listen to me close. When you do one hard thing before 9 a.m., you flip the whole day in your favor. This ain't hype. This is the ultimate success habit, the kind every real motivational video is built on. Why do you think discipline feels heavy to so many people? Because they keep pushing the hard stuff to later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes never. But winners, they attack early. They don't negotiate with weakness. They don't wait to feel ready. They wake up and say, let's get it. That's how daily habits turn into confidence. That's how motivation turns into identity. Have you ever noticed how powerful you feel after doing something you didn't want to do? That feeling isn't random, it's earned. It's proof. When you handle the hard thing early, cold shower, workout, uncomfortable task, honest conversation, you send a message to your brain, I keep my word. And once your brain believes that everything changes, that's psychology. That's why every real motivational speech talks about discipline before success. Ask yourself this. What's the hard thing you've been avoiding? The workout, the plan, the truth. Because that thing right there is the key. Comfort lies to you. It says, relax, you got time. Discipline tells the truth, do it now. When you knock out the hardest task early, the rest of the day feels lighter. You walk different. You talk different. That's not motivation. That's momentum. What happens when you don't do the hard thing? You carry it all day. It drains your energy. It sits in your mind like unfinished business. And then you call it stress. Now that's avoidance tax. But when you face it early, pressure turns into pride. And pride builds standards. Standards build habits. Habits build a life that actually moves forward. Be honest. Who are you becoming every time you choose easy over effort? Because identity is built in private. Nobody sees you at 6 a.m. Nobody claps when you choose discipline. But that's where greatness is forged. That's why the most powerful inspirational video messages aren't about comfort. They're about courage. Small, daily courage. What if starting tomorrow you made this a rule one hard thing before 9 a.m.? No excuses. Rain or shine. Tired or not. That one rule sharpens you. It hardens you in the best way. You stop needing motivation because you've built trust with yourself. And once that trust is there, quitting doesn't even feel like an option. So here's the truth. Your life doesn't change when things get easier. Your life changes when you get stronger. And strength is built by doing what's hard, early, and consistently. Lock in these habits. Stack these daily habits. Live these success habits. And one day, you'll look back and realize this wasn't just a motivational video. It was the moment you decided to become dangerous in your own life.